22. Hike.
You are watching Sports and Sorts live on YouTube. That's 75% sports, 25% sorts. And here are your hosts, Shane and the Bry Man.
Yes, welcome back to Sports and Sorts. We have episode 211 here for you on a Monday morning? Yes, it's Monday morning.
Yes, that's
Day.
correct.
It's Columbus Day.
Yay.
Celebrating mass murders. Anyway, we will be getting into some of our NFL, what we've learned after week 6. We also be talking ALCS, NLCS, but the NFL is going to come in part 2 of this. So right now we're going to lead off with the ALCS and NLCS, and we're basically going to be more focusing on the ALCS because, quite frankly, it's just a better series. And 2, we are diehard Yankee fans, so you have that too. So we're going to get into that. We're going to be talking, I'm sure, a few other things as well. We'll be going to... my wife just texted me, "Are you podcasting today?" We are in the middle of podcasting, but not really podcasting because we don't really podcast. It's more of a
live feed,
blogcast.
We're live feeding.
Yes, exactly. We're vlogging, kind of, sort of.
That's
not
it.
Really, kind of, sort of.
Kind of, sorta.
But anyway, we have some things that we're going to be talking about today. I have it on our any list. I'm trying to pull it up, but I'm getting blown up with text messages. So, like I said, we're going to get into what we've learned in week 6. We will get into our Monday night football picks as well later on in part 2. And then we will be also picking our games for each other for next week. Bry, man, again, rough week, man.
I've been, I think, winless again, right?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah,
and I got one win because I got the Vikings.
Yeah.
I picked the Vikings to beat the Eagles. I saw what I saw, and I said what I said, and it was correct. But we did not see. Neither one of us even came close to seeing what happened with the Chargers-Steelers game. But we're going to get into that in part 2 a little bit. We're not going to be talking a lot about Sunday Night Football because, to be honest, it's 2 not very good teams right now. And then we will also be getting into the ALCS. And that's what I want to start off with right now is the ALCS. So, Bryman, we had 2 very different games. In game 1, the ALCS with the Yankees, we had an amazing game 1. I mean, we kind of dominated. Masahiro Tanaka pitched like a boss. I have a little picture that you had sent me, and then I posted it on Twitter. Got quite a few likes and retweets and stuff like that, I'm sure, by a lot of Yankee fans. It's about where Masahiro Tanaka lines up in history. And I'll put that on the board when we start talking. But also, so Masahiro Tanaka pitched like a beast. He was great, as he usually is in big games, and that's what we got. And you know what? The offense stepped up. You had Greinke on the ropes early, and then they continued to just pile on throughout the game. Ended up winning 7-0, obviously, if you guys watched it. And then game 2, we had, this is my big question. This is my big problem with game 2, is you have one manager who's been doing it for a little while now, has had a very successful career, has a World Series under his belt with A.J. Hinch. He's a good manager that doesn't, he's an outside of the box thinker, but he also doesn't overmanage. Now Boone, on the other hand, he has a team that he kind of relies on. It's not just him. He has kind of a team, which I think can hurt a manager sometimes. I think it's good to surround yourself with people that are smarter than you. I think that's
like Joe Torre did.
Yes, I mean Joe Torre was
at Zim.
Yes, and Zim was the brains of that operation. If you looked at the 2, you'd be like, "Oh my God, Zim's just like a clown," but he's not. Right. He was actually a baseball savant. Yes. He's very smart about the ins and outs of baseball, knew exactly when to do things, but he wasn't great at managing the team, which is where Joe Torre excelled.
Right.
So we have, in this situation, they are really leaning hard on their bullpen. And the Yankees bailed on Paxton early. I wasn't 100% sold. It looked like he was struggling. But you know what? Sometimes when you're struggling, like there was innings where Justin Verlander was struggling. But what happened was he ended up righting the ship. He figured it out, and he started mowing people down again. Yep. And, you kind of got to give your starting pitcher a little bit more leeway. And I understand he was in a little bit of trouble early, but you have to give him a little more leeway just for the reason that my problem with this whole relief pitching baseball, where they have a ton of pitchers coming in, and you have one relief pitcher pitching like 1, maybe 2 innings. You have CC who came in for a batter. The problem is with that, as you see with a couple of the pitchers that came in last night, they're not 100% on point. And when you're not on point, like Johnny Lasagna, as you guys like to call him, if you're not throwing strikes, you come into the game and you're not throwing strikes, you can get in the hole really, really quick. And then you have to go and warm up another guy really fast, get him in the pen, and hope that he's going to be ready. And it's a little too much. I'm a little too unsure about a pitcher and how they're feeling because you don't really know. David Cohn, it's infamous. Like he said how he was in the bullpen and he was like, his stuff was terrible. And then he ends up throwing a perfect game. During the game, you'd never really know in the bullpen what your stuff's going to be like until you get on that mound.
Right.
And that's the problem with the relief pitching is that the more people that you bring in, the more likely one of them is going to fail and fail bad in a big spot. And that's kind of what happened last night. I wouldn't say it was all horrible. I mean, obviously, J.A. Happ, he gave up the big one, but he also gave you two huge outs. But that's the problem. Like now you have a starting pitcher who's not used to coming out of the pen, and you can't really. And he's a guy that's going to give up runs. Like that. That's what you know about him. He's not a guy that's going to pitch to a 1.8 ERA. He's a guy that's going to pitch to a 4 ERA. So he's likely going to give up a run.
J Happ, if you're gonna try and pin anything on J Happ last night, you completely missed the point of that game last night. That's not on him. J Happ came in a reliever's role. Yeah, he gave up the home run on the first pitch there in the bottom of the 11th or whatever. But listen, that's not on him. This game, to me, is I don't want to blame Boone because I can't also. I, like you, I don't blame him for bringing in Green when he did. I think he sensed that, and he said it. I mean, he said it after the game. He's like, or actually, he even said it in the game, during the in-game interview, which was the only good question Joe Buck asked him.
Hey, what month is it?
Yeah, what month is it? Not June.
It's not June anymore, is it?
It's not June anymore. If I were Boone, I would have been like, no, Joe, it's October.
This is important baseball.
Deadpan. But listen, he brings in Green. Green does a great job. My bigger question was, why didn't you leave Green in one more inning?
Yeah.
I would have gone one more inning with him because he just started thinning out his bullpen way too fast. And I mean, yeah, it was great in the sense that he held them at bay for as long as they did. But you also showed your hand too, because you threw everybody out there. Everybody, including Chapman. Everybody got an inning. So they saw Otto, who's, of course, man, I'll tell you what. You want to throw blame, I'll throw blame at him. I can't stand that guy. I haven't liked him since day one. I didn't like him since the second he said what he said about Ruth. And you know what? Now maybe
say some stupid things.
Ruth's ghost is haunting him. That's all I can tell you. So but that's just a really stupid thing to say. I mean, say you could get I don't know, find another guy that's not Babe Ruth, I guess, to say you could get out every at bat that's also dead, I mean, but not him. I mean, why not shoot maybe just like a little bit lower, say I could have gotten Yogi Berra out every at bat. Okay, I mean, all right, that's weird. I mean, that's weird, but
yeah, it's still not a great comment.
It's still dumb, but.
And then you get signed with that team.
I could have got the Iron Horse. I would have struck him out every time. Then you signed with that team, right? Yeah. And listen, anyways, the bottom line is the Yankees showed their hand a lot last night.
Mm-hmm.
All their relievers came out of the pen. All of them. CeCe, Hap. The only guy that didn't come out was Lyons, right?
Yeah,
or is he
pretty
even
much,
on the
yeah.
roster? I don't even
I
know.
don't even know anymore.
But they showed their hand in a game that you lost. Look, it's not a game you needed to win. By getting the first game,
He split.
you
kind of like this. The only problem is that so you got your win against Greinke, which you should have, and Verlander was going to be not an unbeatable matchup, but he's a tough matchup, and
Right.
they ended up putting it to him, and they kept themselves in the game, and
Right.
they make it a bullpen game. But the problem is they just started the bullpen too early, and the
they did.
Astros
Started
got to
the
fire their
bullpen
best bullets late.
Yeah. Yes. They
and
did.
that
was
that's
different.
and they like you and I were talking last night. We were texting back and forth, and you were like, "Do you think Verlander's going to get pulled?" And I was like, "No, because AJ Hinch doesn't overmanage. He's going to let him go in batter by batter." And he went another 2/3 of an inning.
Yeah.
And so he went 6 2/3 instead of
Yep.
6, and
Yeah.
they could save 2 more outs, and that's
Yeah.
a lot with your bullpen.
Sure.
Especially in those key roles, in those key spots. Like he didn't have to, go a full inning with somebody else and bring in Harris a little bit earlier.
It just feels like in the 2 years now that we've seen Boone in the bullpen, seen Boone managing postseason games, that I don't want to say he's nervous, but he doesn't have the experience yet to make these kind of really important bullpen decisions. Let's be honest, that's where you're making your money as a manager the most in the postseason, is managing the bullpen. Between him and Rothschild, who I don't think either of us care too much for. But between the two of them, you might have one full bullpen brain. So I don't trust these guys in these late innings. Hinch, yeah, I would trust him more. And you know what? His relievers, for all the talk about the Yankees bullpen being the strength of their team, and listen, their bullpen was good last night. Jay Happ is not a guy that you normally bring out of your bullpen. That's a well, we've got no one else left, so we need to go to him kind of move. Hinch, because Verlander gave him the length, was able to roll out his bullpen in a manner that was, much more beneficial to him and to the team, because you're not showing your hand.
He
in
didn't
the
have to
third
roll
inning.
out his CC Sabathias and
Yeah.
J.A. Haps and
Right. He didn't have to get to that. He didn't have to get to that point. And those guys that he was throwing out there had the Yankees off balance offensively.
And I
And
understand why he brought in J.A. Happ at that point in time, because you need a starter kind of at that time to kind of give you length.
Yeah.
So it makes sense at that point in time. But my only issue is that he probably should have left some people in a little bit longer. Paxton probably should have been given a little bit longer of a leash based on this game and this game, because you have a win under your belt already.
Yeah.
So
And it's
you've already
decent-
split at home at their home field. So that's something that you should kind of be like, all right, we can give the Big Maple a little bit longer of a leash because we already have that win. We are in contention still. Let's see. He's a big strikeout pitcher. Let's see if he can get out of this. Like those are the kind of things that
I didn't think that Paxton's stuff was actually all that awful last night, too. His fastball had plenty of life on it.
he was having a little bit difficulty hitting his spots. From time to time,
little bit.
But
I didn't.
But that's kind of how he is. So
I wasn't screaming at the TV, "Get him out of there!"
No.
Like I have at some instances throughout especially in the first half of the year, where he was just woefully bad, and you were like, "Get him out of there!"
Yeah,
he was that. I wasn't doing that last night. When Boone pulled him, I was like, "Okay, I get it." I don't know. There was also part of me that was saying, like, look, you're just not going to win this game anyway because you're going against Verlander. So just let him out there. Let him take the lumps and save the pen. Yeah. I mean, I know you have an off day tomorrow so that everybody rests anyway, but I don't know.
That's why I was nervous with this, and this kind of all stems back to game one, where I was kind of I kept on firing this text message over to you. I was pissed off from when it happened. And I was pissed off when the game ended, when they took Tanaka out after 6 innings and they didn't let him go any further. And he threw like 75 pitches.
Right. It was weird. It was definitely weird.
Why are you doing that? Why are you overmanaging? And then they blew them out, on top of it.
Right. Which makes it.
I saw Chris Corelli, a friend of ours who, was a is still kind of, I think, a writer for SNY, covers the Yankees. He's actually taking his next step in life, and he's opened up franchises. I'm not sure what the franchises are yet. I haven't reached out to him about it yet, but I figure I'd let him get his legs under him before I start talking to him and pester him about that. But he had said on one of his tweets that how he felt like Boone was getting the bullpen in so he could start making them sharp. Like start getting them sharp, bringing in these relievers. Well,
because they didn't get a lot of work in September,
right? So you give them some chances to kind of knock off the cobwebs. I agree with that kind of, but I would rather save the bullpen for a game like that where you where you end up having to pull, because it's gonna happen. It's going to happen with our pitchers. I mean, I think Masahiro Tanaka had the lowest ERA, regular season ERA, and it was like 4.4. Like, they are going to give up runs at some point, and you're going to have a pitcher that's going to lose it. Could be Severino. Severino could go out there and pitch terribly, and you're going to have to bring in the bullpen at, in inning 1 or 2. Yep. It's happened before. It could happen again. Paxton's another guy. Yes, if he's pitching terribly and he's walking bases loaded every inning, bring him out. But when he has like kind of a little bit of a tough inning, you don't take him out in the 3rd inning or the 4th inning, wherever it was, to bring in Green. It's just that, at least if you did it, but you had reserved your bullpen and they had been feeling better, or they had a little bit more bullets in the chamber, I would have been a little more confident. But I was not happy about what happened on Sunday night, and I was not happy what happened on Saturday night, and not happy what happened on Sunday night.
I know. But listen, we got out of there with a split. If you want to let's try and look at the big picture. Positive, they get out of there with the split. That's definitely a plus because you have shifted home field advantage. However, I think you and I both know that winning 3 straight games in New York is probably unlikely. There's a very high probability that this is going back to Houston. So, and in fact, there's a good chance they're going to be down 2-1 here because now you get Garrett Cole. Now you get the guy who, let's just say it, the best pitcher in baseball right now. I mean, I don't really know that's. I mean, I suppose it's arguable, but you're going to be splitting hairs if you're making the argument. If you're talking about right now, the guy who's the best pitcher in baseball and a guy who pitched an absolute gem of a Game 5 in Tampa with the weight of the world on his shoulders.
Yeah.
So Garrett Cole is gonna. If you thought Verlander was gonna bring it last night, and he did, wait till you see what's coming tomorrow night. Because that's going to be an entirely different ball of wax. That guy's going to bring it. He's not going to implode. He's not going to have a bad game. If he does implode, it will be to the tune of probably what Verlander did last night, which is to give up maybe 2 runs tops on a mistake pitch that Judge maybe ekes over the fence. But
I also had mentioned to you is that I get nervous with Edwin Encarnacion. He's an older guy who can't catch up to these 95-plus fastballs. Like,
he looks so powered.
Greinke. You can put him in there against Greinke because Greinke throws 91. It's a big difference when you go from 91 to 95 plus. I mean, you have Verlander, who was touching 97 last night. You have Garrett Cole, who's going to be approaching triple digits. Like, he is just not going to catch up on him unless he is completely sitting up there and guessing off-speed pitch. But my guess is when Garrett Cole throws him off-speed pitches, they're going to be well out of the zone. And when he throws him a fastball, it's going to be belt or up. And he's not going to be able to catch up to it. And that's going to be it's an easy formula for him. So they either need to move him way out of that spot in the order, or they need to find somebody to kind of fill his spot against these harder throwers, because he's going to be 1, 2, 3 up and down. Like, it's going to be bad. It's going to be really bad.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but then you'll see Greinke, and which of course will be another must-win. Greinke, every time they pitch Greinke, it's a must-win game. I mean, you got to win that. You have to win it because then you're going back to Verlander again on what will be either full rest or
I think it might be 4 days.
Because how is this Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? Is it 3 nights in a row, or is it Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday?
I'll look that up right now.
Yeah, because if it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, then he's on full rest. If it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, he's on 3 full days of rest because he would have Monday, Tuesday.
That'd be weird if they didn't do all 3 games in a row because. You have a travel day, in between to go.
Right. I don't think that's how they do. It should be.
You never know. The playoffs get weird sometimes.
So Verlander pitches last night. So today is a rest day. Tuesday is a rest day. Wednesday is a rest day. which would mean that he'd be on 3 full days of rest going into Thursday. But that is technically short rest.
Yeah.
So, because you want 4 days. You want to pitch every 5th day. That would not be every 5th day. That would be the 4th day. So, we'll see. I guess we would see what kind of Verlander we'd get. If you get the Verlander you got against the Rays, great.
Yeah, it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
So then he'll pitch on short rest. If I'm not, am I mistaken about that? I don't think so. That's 3 days rest: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then he pitches Thursday. So,
so you don't get that for 4 days of rest.
He's not getting that
fourth
day.
day. Yeah.
He's pitching on the 4th day. So I mean,
he didn't pitch great on short rest before.
No, he did not.
Yeah.
He did not, and that was the favor I think that Tampa did for them basically by stretching that series to 5 games. Mm-hmm. So they but listen, the bottom line, you got to beat Greinke. I expect them to lose tomorrow. I really do. And I'm not trying to say that to be negative, but let's be honest. They're going against Garrett Cole. Yeah. I mean, listen, no, I'm not going to trash this team if they lose to Garrett Cole tomorrow.
Yeah, no, I mean, Garrett Cole, the thing is that and you're going to have, which I assume is Severino.
And then Severino's another bullpen game.
He's going to have
5 innings
pitch.
tops.
He's going to have to pitch the way that you saw him pitch last year.
Yes.
You're going to have to see him come out and be on fire. He's going to have to go. And he has the arsenal to do it.
Oh, without a doubt. He can dominate the game.
The problem is the Astros are a pretty good fastball hitting team. So he's going to have to mix up his pitches. He's going to have to do a Masahiro Tanaka kind of game where he's making them get soft contact and, not relying on the K all the time. Yes, you can use your fastball, but you have to be pinpoint. And that's the only thing with him, because he hasn't pitched a ton this year, that could worry me a little bit. And that's why.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think the strategy... I mean, because I know it kind of almost seems like, okay, well, if we pitch Tanaka versus Greinke, those seem like wins for the Yankees, right? Mm-hmm. Do you think that was really the smart thing to do, though? Like, I wonder if they should have...
Or something?
Yeah, or Cole. And really try and mitigate, try and,
It's one of those things that you want to go for the jugular when you can. And because you never know. I mean, if Verlander went out and threw a shutout, 8 innings, and Boone does what Boone does,
I mean,
and he lets Masahiro Tanaka go 6 innings, 77 pitches or something like that.
It's not like this
you're
was
still in the same spot.
No, and it wasn't the Astros' strategy to do it this way.
Right.
Believe me, they wanted Verlander in game 1 or Cole in game 1. Yeah. It just didn't work out that way because they were pushed to 5.
And the other thing too is that the Yankees did make Verlander work. They
did.
That was not an easy
9 pitches.
Yeah, and that wasn't an easy 109 pitches.
No,
the first few innings easy.
Yes.
Then it was on the struggle bus.
Second time through the lineup, third time through the lineup. Yeah, it started
and that's not something that's typical for Verlander. Verlander usually gets stronger as the game goes on. This did not happen.
They stressed him.
Yeah, those
they
were
definitely
stressful almost 110 pitches yesterday. Yeah. And it was a stressful 6 2/3 innings. Whereas Masahiro Tanaka, on the other hand, had a pretty easy 6 innings of work the other day, and 70 something pitches or whatever he did. It was so low. It was ridiculous. I hate when he takes him out so low.
Now Cole, on the other hand, will be on full rest, I think.
Oh yeah.
Right. So I think he's got his full rest. So
and
expect the absolute best
beast
of him. And Verlander was on full rest last night too. So expect the best of frankly both of them.
Yeah. And if you can hold your own with these two guys on full rest, you got something going for you for the rest of the series. So that's good.
Listen, I'm going to still stick by my Astros in 6 prediction. I'm not going to waver off of that now. I don't. That would be. I kind of actually figured that it would start this way because I figured, well, they have to beat Greinke in game 1. Otherwise, this thing's going to end way quicker than 6. So they did that. I mean, listen, I don't want to say mission. I don't want to George W. Bush and say mission accomplished. But listen, they went into Houston. They took 1 game. That's what they needed to do. Okay, they went in. They took a game they had to take. Now you've shifted it back to Yankee Stadium. You have home field advantage. Take care of home field, and we're going to go to the World Series. But the chances of that happening against this particular team, this is one of those things that has a long series written all over it, which And a long series
I
is
had the
defined by
Yankees
6
in
or 7
7.
games.
You have the Astros in 6.
Right.
I think that it's, like I said, it's kind of a coin toss, but I
I
do
would
think
say
they
it.
are a smidge better overall as a team. And plus, I think we just
Well,
our tenacity late in
here's the
games
thing.
usually goes in our favor.
Here's the thing. This team is a complete. I'm not even going to say they're better than they were in 2017. It's a completely different team.
Oh, yeah.
Than it was in 2017, and of course it's better.
Yeah.
But the Astros are also better than they were in 2017. Because at the time when they beat the Astros had not yet won anything.
Right.
So the Astros are now a more experienced and better team. And you know what? The Astros also got to experience losing last year, which is just as important, I think, for them as experience of winning, because try not to forget this.
It's like the 97 Yankees.
Try not to forget this. The Astros got bulldozed by the Red Sox last year. I mean, absolutely trashed. 4-1. And in a series when I think they actually won the first game. And then the Red Sox said, okay, enough of that. And just trashed them. So, listen, there's motivation here for Houston. You know, they're not the Yankees. Everyone looks at the Yankees and thinks, well, the Yankees would like some redemption for last year after having been taken out, in 4 games by Boston. Guess what? So does Houston. They want to win this series just as bad, too. So it's a great series. The one thing, and maybe this is a nice little segue into just a very brief chat about the National League Championship Series. I want to say this. I hope there are not people, because this is the same kind of thinking that got, a lot of people very disappointed back in 2003. I hope nobody thinks that even if the Yankees get by this series, I hope you don't think it's a fait accompli that they're going to win the World Series, because I'll tell you what, right now, whoever gets out of this ALCS is staring down the barrel of Mad Max and Strasburg and Corbin and Rendon and Childish Bambino. That I'll tell you what, man. That's a great nickname, by the way, for Juan Soto, Childish Bambino. So it's so good. But that's a scary team over there, man. That's a scary. I tell you what, man.
you caught yourself that time.
I did. I tell you what, man. That's a scary team over there. That is, though. That is a scary team. And I am there. And listen, this is going to sound like a little bit weird, because I like Bryce Harper. I really do. But I'm also enjoying the fact that the Nationals are finally breaking through, and they're doing it without him. I really am. Like, I always have liked Bryce Harper. I like the way he plays. He's got personality. And listen, that's good sometimes for athletes. And it's good for the sport in general if you have players like that.
Yeah.
But I do believe that for whatever reason, he may have alienated himself in that clubhouse when he was there. And he may not have been the greatest teammate. It's hard to say. Like, the stories about that are very, there's nothing like really definitive, like, oh God, he was just this really bad guy. But I will tell you, it's got to be satisfying. If you're like a Nationals fan, it's got to be satisfying for you, because that guy went, and not only did he leave, but he stayed in the division. He went to the Phillies, and that team didn't even come close to making the playoffs. They were a below 500 team. They just fired their manager. I mean, you could sit here and say, well, Bryce Harper just got Gabe Kapler fired. I mean, that's not exactly how it went down. But listen, he went there, and although he did put up his numbers, the team was not what they were supposed to be. There were a lot of people who had them as prohibitive favorites to win that division. And it ended up being Atlanta. And where's Atlanta also now, too? So listen, the Nats are finally a cool story, because they're 2 wins away from going to the World Series. They may wrap this thing up in 4. I don't know. I mean, now they're in what they didn't just go into St. Louis and split. They took care of business. Won 2 games there. Had Mad Max carry a no-hitter until the 8th or 9th?
Yeah,
it would have been the 8th. And he looks like Mad Max again. He looks like Mad Max again. And Strasburg, and listen, they went through the Dodgers to get it done too. Don't overlook that. It's still a really good Dodger team. And they went through them. And now it looks like they're slicing through St. Louis, and they're going to the World Series.
Yeah.
So bank on it.
Looks like
they're gonna not only are they going to go to the World Series, but they're going to go to the World Series with their rotation probably set.
Oh yeah.
To have Mad Max in Game 1 and Strasburg in Game 2,
Goldschmidt needs to
vice
step on the
versa.
gas here in this series. I mean, they could. I'm hoping that they pick up a game or two. The Cardinals. I actually had them to win, because I thought that Strasburg being a little bit I don't know, winded, a little bit on short rest, throwing a lot of innings already in the playoffs. And he's never been great when he's pitched a ton of innings, but he's been solid this year for sure.
And he'll be fine at this point too. He'll be fine because he won't pitch on any short rest, I don't think. So there's no need to do that either. So, it could be. I think that seems like it's a done deal at this point. You're going to have Nats in either Houston or the Yankees, and I'll tell you what, that'll be
likely.
Either one of those would be a good World Series.
Yeah. And plus, the Nationals, they've been trying to get there for so long. They've never been able to kind of get the monkey off their back.
Right. And now they're 2 wins away from that.
Yeah, which is good for them. Good for them. All right. Yeah. So we talked a bunch about that. We talked about the NLCS. You kind of really touched on most of that. That we don't really have to get into a ton of it because it is it's really a one-sided affair right now.
So far.
The NLCS, as these aren't the premier teams. So it's kind of a little more difficult to kind of really want to talk about them. But I do love their rotation. The Nats rotation is spectacular. The Cardinals have the name, the brand that you want to see in the World Series, but it's not really the team that you want to see in the World Series. Goldschmidt is great, but he's older. Matt Carpenter was good. Now he's a bench player. You kind of, and he really fell off after 1 year. He went from last year from having his career most home runs to this year to striking out every at bat.
Which is really weird considering the ball was juiced this year.
Yeah.
He unfortunately he lines up as a possible PED user.
Maybe.
I hate to say it.
Maybe there's a chance. He was good.
But then again, so does Brett Gardner. So.
He's got the short porch. Come on.
God, yeah, but the body type is very different too. He's heavier.
Yeah, well,
he's heavier. He fills out the jersey a lot more.
The whole thing was they had the conversation. Gardner was like, "Can you just let me loose?" And he was like, "Yeah, go loose, go crazy." So this year now he's trying to rake bombs. The guy that I really wanted to see do that. We've talked about this in the past. Ichiro. I would have loved to seen a manager say, "Go ahead, go crazy," but he wouldn't have done it.
No, he wouldn't have. Too disciplined. He was just too disciplined of a player.
He could have hit 30. Especially in Yankee Stadium.
Yeah. Oh,
Yankee Stadium, he could hit 40. Granderson did.
Without a doubt.
Randy was a 40 home run guy for years.
Yes, he was.
As a Yankee. He was nowhere near the player Ichiro was.
No.
Ichiro's a Hall of Famer. Granderson's a solid guy.
Ichiro's a
great guy. Solid player.
Yes.
All right, so that's pretty much it for our MLB talk, ALCS, NLCS. If you want to, check it out, go ahead and, this whole thing will be up live on the YouTube channel in a few minutes, and you can check it out there. You can check back all of our previous footage on YouTube as well. We have it all there. You can check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/Shane and the Bryman, Twitter at Shane and Bryman, and that's where you'll find us everywhere. But we are going to take a quick break. We'll be back for about 20 minutes or so, 15 to 20 minutes to talk about the NFL Week 6, what we've learned. And I think that's pretty much.
I learned something depressing, but we'll talk about that when we get back.
All right. I have one. The only problem is I don't know where that clip is. What we've learned. I don't know what I did with it. I have no idea. I'm gonna have to search for it. Maybe I'll do it during the break. See you in a few minutes. And it will. Wait, I have this though. I did get a new soundboard. So I do have this on our way out. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. We can have our way out. Little music right here. And it kind of slowly fades in. It's going to get hard just in a few seconds. That's not.
That's what.
Yeah. I shouldn't have said that. All right. Thank you for listening. We'll be back in 2 minutes with part 2, NFL Week 6, what we've learned, Monday Night Football, picks for next week, all that kind of stuff coming up.
That's what she said.